We are live, Kim.
Oh, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us here today. My name is Kim Rogers and I am the CAMWorks account manager for all things CAM here at GoEngineer. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into how CAMWorks VoluMill could benefit your company. We have Mike Britton, who's an application engineer here at GoEngineer, and he is going to be providing a presentation on the benefits of VoluMill, and again, going a little deeper into the lingo, what VoluMill is, and the benefits it can bring to your operation. For the sake of time, we have asked that you put all of your questions into the chat to be answered at the end of the webinar, as we have a great group today, and it would probably be a little lengthy if we were to answer them all right now. So with that said, Mike, if you want to take it away, that would be fantastic.
All righty. Thanks, Kim. Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Britton. I am, as stated, a SOLIDWORKS application engineer with a CAM specialization. Like you, I am very enthusiastic about turning large pieces of material into smaller pieces of material that are shaped the way that we need. And just kind of in general, this is intended for folks who aren't super familiar with what VoluMill is or what trochoidal machining is. So that's just where we're starting, and we're going to poke around in the software on how we use it. So VoluMill is a trade name for trochoidal machining. It is a technology that is designed for roughing strategies. And because it's cutting edge, a lot of times some folks feel like it's something that should be for all strategies. CAMWorks makes it especially clear that this is explicitly for roughing, and it's for enhancing your material removal rate and for getting as close to your machine's limitations as possible while also delivering some other really great benefits. So you can see down here on this slide that we have a kind of curvaceous part that would be challenging to machine, and we can see how these strategies are looking different already. So just a regular lace or zigzag type of roughing operation gives you generally pretty straight lines and follows the contours of your part, where VoluMill roughing just has these curvier pathways, and there's G-code and acceleration reasons for why that is. But let's take a little bit of a deeper look. These patterns that we can see in this part, they'll reduce cycle time, they'll improve tool longevity, and they do that because they maintain consistent engagement, and it's designed to more evenly wear the tool as well, and we'll see some of that shortly. And the last advantage is one of my favorites. Your tool paths look really cool when you're back plotting them, so everyone knows that you're very cool and very serious. And VoluMill isn't the only trochoidal strategy that is inside of CAMWorks. There are actually two. So we have VoluMill, which gets a lot of airtime, including in this presentation, but there's also the adaptive strategy. And you can see here in this slide that this is in our operation parameters dialog box under the pattern tab. We just have those two options there. So why do they have two? Adaptive is much faster, a little more plug and play to use. VoluMill has a lot more optimization opportunities though. VoluMill just has more tweaks and buttons. Adaptive is kind of a just rougher roughing operation. And it's especially useful in situations where maybe you're doing super low quantities, or your programmer's time is much more valuable than this short project that you're trying to run off. And this is also unique in that you need to be careful not to confuse CAMWorks adaptive strategies with similar named trochoidal strategies from other vendors. So precision in your Googling if you're trying to find more information, or shooting an email over this way to learn more. So let's talk again about this adaptive part first off. There are fewer control knobs, so there's fewer optimization options, as we mentioned before. The options that you do get are pretty consistent relative to the other roughing patterns that you get, your regular pocket in, pocket out, lace, zigzag, things like that. Something that you don't have control over, however, with adaptive are your entries. These are helical entries only for adaptive. VoluMill, though, it uses the same trochoidal strategies, but VoluMill will pull in from the side if your geometry allows for it. So you'll get maximum tool engagement right away. That's advantageous for trochoidal machining because the entire thing is designed to even out your tool pressure over the entire operation and to maintain that consistent engagement so that your tool wears as evenly as possible. And the big advantage for VoluMill is the technology expert that's in the feeds and speeds tab. We'll poke around in that in the live section. So the technology expert allows you to pull in for all of this, and we'll see it more in the live demo, but you can choose your materials, you can choose your hardness, and this is really about getting to your machine's maximum ability, because it even takes into account the types of taper that you're using for tool holding, and it asks you how good your work holding is. This is all supposed to be in conjunction with the customizations that you have set up in your TechDB. Your technology database, your TechDB, it's where your machine definitions live, it's where your tool cribs live, it's where all of that lives. VoluMill needs that information to be accurate for it to deliver the best possible elements. So keep that in mind, but ultimately the best part about VoluMill is that little slider down there on the bottom that lets you go from conservative to aggressive. I like the slider a lot because, roughing passes happen early in your machining. So if you hear your machine start to shake itself apart a little bit, you can just, stop that cycle, run back, tweak that slider a little bit, and give it another go. For reference, I'm primarily a low run and prototype machinist, so I'm not working on, massive Okumas and things like that. Although I suppose if you did have a, multi-ton machine shaking its way across your floor, you might notice earlier than it making the weird noise. So on that note, speaking of the types of machines that I use, is VoluMill a good fit for your shop? And the answer is yes. A lot of times, trochoidal machining, VoluMill, and high-speed machining kind of get glommed onto one another. And that is true. Your HSM-capable machines will derive the maximum benefit from VoluMill. However, all those other advantages, like shortening your cycle times, somewhat less extremely than HSM machines, but also improving your tool wear, all of those maintain for regular machines that aren't doing several tens of thousands of RPMs. So the machines that I primarily used VoluMill on are around 6,000 RPM at the spindle. So it fits for everything. And do you need to use your VoluMill Technology Expert every time? Once again, that form looked like this. You don't have to. It's easy to work with, and we'll poke around in there. But you don't. You can still gain the advantages of those trochoidal machining strategies just using your feeds and speeds library that's loaded in your technology database. Or if you already know your chip load, you can enter that for your operation as well. So all right, here we go. We get to finally pop into the good stuff, my favorite. So we'll grab SolidWorks here. I'm going to start off with this very simple part because it's very easy to show how these trochoidal machining elements work. I have two different roughing operations set up over here on my operations manager tree. And one of them is a regular zigzag, and we can see just kind of looking in here, yeah, that's a regular zigzag pattern. This is only a 10mm deep slot in here. The other option, though, is the VoluMill strategy. So these two separate patterns are going to they're going to remove the same amount of material, they're going to go all the way through your part. They are not your finishing passes, but they address it in totally different ways. If we look over here, we can see that this is set to 5.292 minutes, and the zigzag is set to 9.488 minutes. And just for this simple demo, I'll just simulate this toolpath. And I'll bring the speed down, and we can see how these entries come in. So we can see that it's maximizing tool engagement. This slot is substantially shorter than the cutting area of my tool, but we can see that it's just coming in and taking an even arc cut every pass. This way, it's not, doing a big slotting pass all the way through the first time around. And as we all know, slotting is very hard on your tools, it's hard on your machines, and it's hard on your work holding. And it just comes in all the way from the side to reduce all of that wear and tear. No pre-drilling, no helical passes, none of that. So it's just coming in to remove your material as efficiently as possible. So we can green check on out of that. And now we can look at a more complex part. So we'll take a look at this. You may have seen this on some of the elements for just giving you the heads up about this webinar. I decided to make something challenging to program. And we can see that we have a handful of different elements happening over here on our operations tree. First, before you look at that, we can see that I just only have one active multi-surface feature here. All of these elements are coming in from that. So we have a roughing pass, a rest machined roughing pass, and 2 finish passes. This is a lot to look at, which is why I started with that slot. Let's take a look at some of the settings that are involved here. Just double clicking that operation to enter my operation parameters dialog. There we go. So let's take a look at our pattern tab first. So our pattern is set to VoluMill here, and we have just very limited options here. We can hit these ellipses right there to grab our VoluMill settings. So if you're choosing a VoluMill for a pocket or something like that, where you can't come in from the side, we can choose our different elements here. So you could do spiral, ramp, pre-drilled holes. We can talk about just set all of your entries and everything like that, all of these different options that we have, and we can manually override some of the default settings in here. So these are just default TechDB settings that I'm using, so this is just what it's pulling based on all of that. But when we come over to our feeds and speeds tab, we can see that this is set by operation, just like any other element in our TechDB. If I hit my library button, this will just pull me in to my standard TechDB feeds and speeds calculator settings. But if I use my dropdown and set this back to operation, down here under feed rates, I can access my VoluMill Technology Expert. And this is where the good stuff comes in. When I was first drilling down kind of into VoluMill as a marginally younger AE than I am now, the default setting for this is your Britton hardness scale. I was just thinking, like, sheesh, Britton testing isn't, inexpensive. So I was very pleased to find that I can just choose my Rockwell B or C scales also to calculate this. On the Rockwell B scale, the default material is 6061 T6 for our stock material here in CAMWorks. That's just the default once again. So that's just a 60 on your Rockwell B scale. And the best part about Rockwell testing versus Brunel testing is that you can just pick up an inexpensive set of files from McMaster or Granger or whoever your preferred vendor is and get a test from there. So we can talk about, just our different tool coatings and everything, talk about how our part holding is set up, and then our machine tapers, and even your tool holder type. So I do a lot with, ER collets and ER nuts. Get into all of that, and then our slider. The slider is great. It doesn't tell you super clearly, what conservative versus aggressive means, but what we can do is just play with the slider and kind of get an idea of how it is going to impact things. So I'm just going to take my slider way back to the left, tell it to regenerate some tool paths. There we go. And we can see over here in our statistics that has set this tool path to 7.971. Oh no, sorry, the total tool path time is 8.074 minutes right there. If I go back into my operation parameters, come back over to our VoluMill Technology Expert, bring this about 2/3, 3/4 to the right, we can see that it has updated our feed per tooth, so that's added 50 microns per tooth. And I will not apologize for metric machining. That's increased tooth out per tooth. And we can see that that has dropped our tool path down a little bit, down 7.994 minutes. So we can see that the majority of our gains or our toolpath derivatives, at least with the standard machine, the default setup has it at a 10K RPM spindle, is set to 7.994 minutes. As we all know, your mileage and feeds and speeds will vary, but we can get some pretty good sized gains out of this. On our, let's see, this is a fairly modest part. We're working with a 90 millimeters on one side, so 3.5 inches by 3.5-ish inches. And we can bring the just stock tech DB settings down from about a half hour to 15 minutes for our total part setup. If you're working with CAMWorks and you haven't noticed, if you're in your operation tab, we can look at our tool paths for each of these operations, but if you right click your setup and hit edit definition, swing on over to our statistics tab and we can get our total machining time for that setup in minutes. So tips and tricks to hold on to, things to notice. So let's see, can we get a demonstration of the machine cavities pattern option? Let's see, Jason, I see that question coming through. We'll see how we're doing on time. We'll see if I can whip something up for you right away. But we'll keep going through this. I'm just going to pull up our adaptive part now, and we can just see some of the options that are available for our adaptive settings. We can already see how this is different, that this is taking us in through helical entries. If you have, limited ATC capabilities or limited machine size and all of that, we can bring that all in through here. You'll notice we can set our pattern is set to adaptive, as we can see in the operation parameters tab. If we come over to our feeds and speeds though, adaptive does not have access to the VoluMill Technology Expert there. So that is worth keeping in mind. You gain a lot of the advantages of trochoidal machining but it's just worth knowing. We can also add our, we'll just say okay there, and our, say no, we haven't changed anything. We can see that our total toolpath by default on this is 13 minutes. So there are a couple of different options and things like that that we have here. Adaptive does have its place. It's generally the baby brother for VoluMill because you get, all the really nice bells and whistles with it, but that is just something worth knowing. Alrighty, give it a moment for any questions from chat. Okay, I think that is about everything there. Swap back on over to our PowerPoint. So let's talk about VoluMill. Where do you get it? This is our SolidWorks CAM and CAMWorks product matrix. We get 2.5 axis VoluMill starting at SolidWorks CAM Professional, and it persists all the way up through CAMWorks Premium. Something worth knowing, however, is that there is also 3-axis VoluMill. 3-axis VoluMill, unfortunately, does not unlock 3-dimensional trochoidal strategies, which would be extremely cool. People who are way better at math than me would need to figure that one out. The 3-axis VoluMill bundle that you can get, though, allows you to use VoluMill on 3-axis roughing operations and CAM features. So when we're looking at this surfacic part here, this area clearance is set for a multi-surface feature. Oh, sorry, that's the adaptive part. We'll open our VoluMill part. It's the same thing though. This area clearance is set to this multi-surface CAM feature in CAMWorks. So that's just what the CAMWorks VoluMill 3-axis module is for. I wouldn't be able to do this demo with this part using CAMWorks 3-axis, without using CAMWorks 3-axis rather. So just keep that in mind. If you're doing things like molds, cavities, all of that, or anything swoopy or surfacey, keep that in mind, that you will have access to 2.5 axis VoluMill, but that's strictly going to be for things like pockets, slots, open pockets, all that fun stuff. It's the 3-axis that you need to match your CAD geometry. All right, so that's where you can find VoluMill in all of our CAMWorks products. Kim, thank you for your patience. I know you've been champing at the bit to have a go at the mic again.
Oh, you know it. Hey, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Hope
Absolutely.
that information was helpful for you. That was a pretty extensive look at VoluMill. There's always more, but that's gets everyone up to a good start, I believe. Just it might be worth mentioning that because some of you aren't familiar with GoEngineer, that GoEngineer is the #1 reseller for all SolidWorks tools and Stratasys 3D printers in the United States.
Speaking of the United States,
GoEngineer also has numerous locations across the United States, as you can see, to support your SolidWorks tool and 3D printing needs, as well as CAMWorks, of course.
Yeah, this is all of our office locations, but I think I was just talking yesterday and we're able to sell SolidWorks in all 50 states.
Yeah, I think we're close. I think we're close. I'm not sure that was updated for sure.
Oh.
And training and material resources. We have classroom training, various types. We have everything from classroom training to virtual with a live training. With trainer, excuse me. We also offer a more custom type training for more targeted needs in projects. We also have a ton of knowledge-based information, and you can find obviously over 3,000 YouTube videos on YouTube. And support across the United States. Here are the hours for you, Monday through Friday. And everybody, be sure to follow us on social media. The things are changing all the time with GoEngineer. We offer a lot of great information, again, from learning materials to what's new, to new products that can help drive your productivity and help you guys to be more competitive in your marketplace. Thanks again for the time. You guys have a great day. Here's our contact information. If you guys have any questions for us, we'd love to hear from you.
And Jason, I saw your question come through. If you can shoot me and Kim an email, we'll get a demo worked up for you, or at least some additional info on the machine cavities pattern option for VoluMill patterns in CAMWorks. So thank you all so much once again, and I hope to hear from you all soon.
Everyone have a great day.